in the real world, I am an internal ethics and compliance practitioner. I'm an ethics program manager for a very large global defense company and called BAE Systems. And I am located in New Hampshire. Greg, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Greg Mayer. I am a patent attorney. I've been a patent attorney for almost 30 years. I'm working for a medical device company called Becton Dickinson. I'm in Tempe, Arizona, and normally from Chicago, but I got this job in Tempe and moved out here in January. And I've been judging 3 years. I'm not an Uber judge. I'm just a regular judge. This is my 3rd year judging this competition. So thanks for being here.
All right, awesome. Okay, team. So this is, as we mentioned, this is the 10-minute presentation competition. And the instructions are, you have been called back by the company that you gave your full presentation to yesterday for a second visit. They have asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You will have 10 minutes, no Q&A, no slides or video. And I just want to remind everyone that Greg and I may not have been participated in your presentations yesterday. So it would be very helpful if you could let us know who you are, the fictional company, identity, consultant, whatever, and who we are supposed to be as the entity that has called you back for a second time. Okay. All right, great. So we have someone else that joined, Roxana. Is Roxana part of something?
Yes, hi, I'm the advisor for the CSUN's team. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful, great. We're gonna get started. Just to remind everyone of Liam's instructions, if you are not the team presenting, please ensure that you are on mute. Okay, all right, so.
Just a quick question. Sorry, I had my hand up. I can't tell if you saw it.
Sorry. Yeah, I see that now.
Well, no worries. As far as setting the scene goes, will that occur before the timer starts, or do we set the scene and the timer's already been started? What would you prefer?
Either way,
Okay.
I'm setting the scene shouldn't take more than a few seconds.
Yeah. Just making
so
sure.
you know, I don't have a stopwatch going. It's just, you know,
Awesome.
Stay around 10 minutes.
Sweet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not that much of a stickler for time. Okay. So, wonderful. Any other questions before we get started? Nope. Okay. Are we good to go? Great. So what we'll go ahead and do is California State University, Northridge, California, topic Chat GPT.
Hello, Board of Directors. Thanks for calling us back. Just as a reminder, I'm Fernando Sosa and my partner is Julian Watkins. Today we'll be talking about the ethical dilemmas and some of the solutions that we have. I'd like to introduce Julian.
Hello, Board of Directors. Thank you for having us again. I will be going over the ethics of the collection of data privacy and environmental concerns. Now, data privacy. Why is the data collected by ChatGPT have such alarming ethical issues surrounding it? Well, because ChatGPT is a language learning model. People are because of that, ChatGPT replies back to users in a very human-like manner, which gives users an even more vulnerable state of mind. So you are more likely to import data that you would never, you most likely never put into a regular search bar like Google or Bing, and you're lulled into a sense of security because of the way that ChatGPT replies to you. And this is concerning because users are sending this data to a large data collection company, which conducts research that we don't know of, which they claim for, which you guys have claimed for research purposes, but those research purposes are not set clear to users. And now onto the environmental concerns. ChatGPT uses an alarming amount of water to cool down the data processors and uses a lot of electricity just to run them. Our solution was to possibly relocate centers to countries that have more sustainable green infrastructure for such energy, such as Iceland, because Iceland 98% of their energy is renewable, mainly due to their geothermal and wind geothermal due to the geothermal and their windmills. And due to their cool environment, with summers almost never reaching above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and with average temperatures around 40 degrees, their cooling systems would use less water because of their frigid Icelandic weather. But why is this important? Well, it is because an approximate 2/3 of the world by 2025 is predicted to experience water shortages. And the goal of ChatGPT, their mission statement, has been to ensure that AI benefits all of society. All of society, would ChatGPT be willing to put 2/3 of the world at risk? And Fernando will be taking on my colleague will be taking on the
Okay, so another large issue of ChatGPT is its ingrained bias. As Jillian mentioned earlier, ChatGPT is a language model that sources its data from 2021 and prior. The problem with this is that ingrained biases slip into the data source that it uses to answer it uses to give its human-like responses. These biases lead to misinformation and discriminatory data. In an effort to stop this, ChatGPT has decided to hire people to check their data, but they have chosen to hire Kenyan workers and they're paying them $2 an hour. This in itself is unethical and controversial. Having biased data can be offensive to more people because examples that ChatGPT may have can be skewed to one demographic group or a certain language. And this can obviously be harmful to people that just want to ask it a simple question or they look for information. Large business owners and figures have also come out and stated that they don't like the bias system that ChatGPT has. People like Elon Musk have even come forward and said that they want to create a model called TruthGPT to counter this. We have suggested a couple of solutions to fix this problem. The first being opening up a discussion board where anyone can post their concerns and problems with ChatGPT. Having it a discussion board will make it so that anyone can post their concerns and we can get on it as fast as possible. A second solution is also fact checking the data that we have in the system. There's many AI systems that fact checked misinformation, and it's a surprise to me that ChatGPT doesn't have this already. The second discussion or second dilemma that we will be discussing is user abuse. User abuse is huge with ChatGPT, and people are extremely overestimating the capabilities that it has. Although it is marked as artificially intelligent, it is not truly intelligent. It just predicts the best combination of words in response to your question. User abuse happens in academia. Students are using it to cheat. And the last thing that we want is people viewing ChatGPT as a cheating model. Even professors and people of large status are using ChatGPT to write scripts in their courses. We want professors to write their own scripts or source their data. We don't want people just copying and pasting from this website. As a solution to this, we have suggested that we've suggested that OpenAI opens up or OpenAI works with academic institutions and provides them with systems that can detect whether something was written by AI or not. This is already in the works, but it's not perfected, and other third-party companies are doing this. We suggest that OpenAI or ChatGPT steps up and be the one that provides institutions with a system that helps them detect others from cheating with their system. Also, we suggest that ChatGPT uses watermarks in their answers. So when people copy and paste their answer, it's encrypted in the text that it's sourced from ChatGPT. This way, professors can quickly check whether something was written. Obviously, this isn't a perfect solution, but it's a good place to start, and it's a deterrent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go on to our next group, which is the Smeal College of Business at Penn State. And the topic is Ticketmaster pricing.
You guys all good, team? Ange and Kate?
1 second.
I think we're getting spotlighted. Yep.
Yep.
Ange and Kate, you guys good?
I'm ready whenever you are.
All right. So thank you, Ticketmaster Advisory Board, for being with us today. First, we would like to explain why the ethical considerations to this case are pertinent, pressing, and deeply rooted in the problem at hand. Then, it is important for us to address for you all that this is an industry-wide problem. In an industry such as entertainment, ticket pricing practices face scrutiny due to its market and demand-based pricing structure, which can fluctuate to the extremes at any point in time. Following that, we will look at which stakeholders are involved, what rights are being violated, and why those infringements on the rights make inherently unwise business practices. Then, finally, we will take you through the details of our recommendations through the lens of business ethics. Boomerang Advisory Group wants to hone in on solving these issues, both on the internal end of the company from a culture and practice standpoint, but also from an outward-facing policy standpoint for the external stakeholders to experience. Ultimately, we want Ticketmaster as a business to build and embody a fair environment. The task at hand calls us to alleviate concerns targeting the two largest stakeholders of your corporation, the company and the fans, the artist and the fans. But first, let's specifically address the concerns surrounding ticket prices, specifically the high and hidden fees. Not only are the fees alarming, they are unethically disclosed during the purchasing process. Currently, a feeling of deception and distrust is rooted both within the customers and the artist. This is perpetuated through the lack of transparency seen in Ticketmaster's pricing policies. Your customers feel attacked by high and hidden fees that are tacked onto the initial face value price that are not ultimately seen until the end of checkout in the end-all be-all price. Additionally, your artists fall victim to a lack of awareness in that drastic shift of their own concert tickets without their even acknowledgement. So what is the ethical problem at hand? This lack of transparency within the ticket pricing process has placed Ticketmaster at the helm of creating an environment of distrust, and that is a specific matter we need to address for you all today. In order to address this problem ethically, we must create an environment of trust by enforcing the rights of your stakeholders. The environment of trust will be upheld through a newly introduced mission statement for Ticketmaster that will internalize within the company, but also reflect and project outwards to the external stakeholders. This new mission statement specifically addresses providing honesty and fairness while pushing the bounds of online ticketing through an innovative lens for the ticket price setting industry to follow suit. Now, let's touch on why and what we consider the rights of your stakeholders to truly be. Boomerang Advisory Group defines rights as the crucial actions a company must undertake in order to retain their stakeholders. Your fans must be provided with a fair and enjoyable experience to continue purchasing through Ticketmaster and earn their loyalty and retention for events to come. Simultaneously, your artist must be treated with fairness throughout the contractual relationship of the promotions, the distributions, and the end-all be-all purchasing of tickets in order for them to return as clients and use Ticketmaster again for their concerts, for their events, and etc. The lack of either of those actions can and has resulted in tangible harm against your company. What we have seen now are lawsuits filed by fans against Ticketmaster claiming anti-competitive and antitrust violations. There's also been refunds issued to your fans and ultimately a negative publicity surrounding the company from a consumer standpoint. On the artist end, big brand names such as Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, Drake, Bruce Springsteen, and BTS have turned their fan bases against you, claiming that they do not support Ticketmaster's decision-making when changing the price. If left unintervened, a feeling of long-term distrust will breed within the association of Ticketmaster in the eyes of the fans, and you may ultimately see the loss of both your talent and your fan base. To begin mending those strained relationships, Ticketmaster must reinforce the rights of your fans and artists by building trust. Translating those ethical implications and violations into tangible solutions, we've identified two pressing issues that the company is facing scrutiny for from a public perception standpoint as far as deception goes. These two issues are one, the overwhelming lack of transparency, and two, the uncertainty in the final price. I'm now going to pass it on to Angela to take us through our first recommendation, which addresses the lack of transparency in the ticket purchasing process.
Thanks, Grant. So if you'll recall, we recommended 3 initiatives. Firstly, full visibility of ticket prices with fees during that initial search, implementing a fee calculator, and then recommunicating the process that Ticketmaster uses when determining fees. Additionally, we provided you with a marketing and awareness campaign to publicize those recommendations and maximize communication. So looking at price transparency and fee visibility, we recognize that Ticketmaster offers an option to view the final price during search, but it is hidden within the filters and unknown to the average Ticketmaster user. This causes considerable disconnect, and Ticketmaster is still coming off as deceitful despite having resources available. Theoretically, this should facilitate a transparent buying process, but if the option exists and the customer still remains unaware, we cannot count that as effective communication. So aside from bringing fees out into the open, this is why we have also helped to design a fee calculator for your customers to check how much those fees might add to the face value at any given time. Prioritizing a genuine commitment to upholding your stakeholders' rights means implementing assertive solutions that foster a fair environment in order to mitigate those feelings of deception. Now, your priority should lie in making the customers feel safe and informed of their purchase at all times. This means implementing value-based policies that call for actionable items in order to dispel this misconception that they are merely talking points. These actions should be proactive in nature rather than reactive, and that is what we achieve with that fee calculator. So communicating your new transparency initiatives is equally as important to your fan base, specifically because of that long-standing environment of distrust that has triggered waves of accusatory discourse surrounding Ticketmaster's business model. We recommended breaking down your currently existing single, wordy, and convoluted explanation page into 3 key questions that we saw represented in your fans' discontentment. We want to address firstly, how fees are determined, secondly, where do they go, and thirdly, what other general information exists for your customer to know. Now, answering these questions means communicating your business model transparently, and this gives Ticketmaster the opportunity to prove that trust is valued internally as a two-way street. Ticketmaster's continued repeat customers show to us that it's not actually the price and the numerical value that worries your customers, but rather the skepticism behind why all of your company policies and information is hidden. So creating an environment of trust, you have to trust your fans to understand that Ticketmaster does have to profit and operate as a business. Now, lastly, consumer interactions should not come solely through reactions to company-caused difficulties. Valuing the rights of your stakeholders means actively seeking out each opportunity to maximize communication. Our marketing and awareness campaigns are strategically timed to engage your fans through social media leading up to highly anticipated events. This shows that Ticketmaster is taking the initiative to disseminate information on behalf of your fans by anticipating their needs and bringing it to their doorstep before they look out of necessity. And it guarantees them the most transparent and assured purchase journey from start to finish. Now, to take us through the second prong of our recommendations, I'm going to pass it on to Kate to talk you through.
Thanks, Ange. Yeah, to build off of that, our second recommendation is to institute a fee cap. So currently, many customers feel that the ticket prices are too high, and the lack of transparency already projects this image that they're prioritizing revenue over the customer's rights and experiences. Writing a fee cap into the company policy would be a clear action that shows that the company is prioritizing the rights of the customers and also sets clear boundaries that show that they're taking accountability and the customers can trust them. The fee cap would reinforce the new company mission statement as well, which would additionally change the company internally to a more customer and focused company. So the fee cap is modeled off of a government revenue cap, and this would be the upper limit of what the fee charge could be at checkout. A fair price is something that the customers can afford. It is competitive with our competitors, and a big portion of our target market can afford it. An unfair price would be if the tickets were inflated to a point where most of our target market can't afford it, and that would kind of be price discrimination at a certain point. So our recommendation is to have a upper limit, a fee cap of 30%. At 30%, most of the target market can afford this. It's competitive with our competitors. We still get revenue, and Ticketmaster upholds its ethical responsibility of ensuring fair prices for all of its customers. So Ticketmaster has an ethical responsibility of ensuring fair prices and transparency to our customers. And to do this, we suggest a two-pronged solution of instituting more marketing and communication strategies through what Ange went through, and then also a fee cap. Valuing and protecting the customer's rights is important legally, ethically, and financially, and our solution embodies all of this. And this will set an example for other companies going forward that short-term revenue at the expense of the customer's rights will always lose out to the long-term relationship lost with them. Implementing those recommendations allows us to create an environment of trust and reinforce the rights of our stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, judges.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so we are now going to move on to Starbucks sustainability project, Georgia 2.
Hi, excuse me. It's a pleasure to be back today with you after being able to consult. We're a back-to-back consultant group, and it is a real pleasure to be here with the Starbucks Sustainability Executive Board. It was a pleasure to present to you yesterday and to take your feedback and adjust accordingly in our presentation. It is no secret that the world faces a modern-day crisis as the environmental crisis around the world continues to worsen with the release of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the environment that are raising the global temperature, as well as melting the ice caps and raising sea levels successively. And as waste like microplastics and trash are released both into our oceans and into our land environment, killing off species and threatening the health of people who are inhabiting the earth. During this modern climate crisis, the American public, as well as the world public, is looking to corporations to take responsibility in the fight against climate change and the raising of the global temperature, as it is corporations who have a large impact on the environment with their practices of production. We recognize that Starbucks has taken real great strides to take responsibility for the environment and the world that they inhabit, something that distinguishes them significantly from the other corporations around the world who are currently passing off this responsibility to outside competitors. Starbucks is taking a firsthand responsibility by producing reports of their emissions and their waste for every year, as well as making promises to develop new, greener technologies, to develop their more sustainable business practices in order to protect our environment for the future generations. We greatly appreciate these efforts, as exemplified by the fact that we're sitting before the Starbucks Sustainability Executive Board right now. But we feel that there is an area in which that they can improve. Starbucks currently produces 8,000 cups per minute to be used by their consumer clientele. And those cups, while made from paper, are rendered unrecyclable because of the polyethylene lining that is in place in all of those single-use cups, which causes them to end up in landfills. Currently, only 4 US cities allow for Starbucks single-use cups to be recycled, despite the fact that they are made of paper. This usage of cups is so high that it amounts to about 4 billion cups created and thrown in landfills per year. So despite the fact that Starbucks is using more sustainable means to create their cups, they are rendering them undecomposable and non-recyclable because of the lining. And we feel that we can address this better with our proposed solution, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, I feel that it's necessary that we just define what sustainability is, as it is a somewhat subjective term. So we want to make sure we have that be a clear term before we move forward in our conversation about why this is important and how we feel it can be addressed better at the Starbucks corporate level. Sustainability is defined by the UN Brundtland Commission as meeting the needs of the present while protecting the needs of future generations. Starbucks hold this as a value as presented in their stated code of ethics, as well as their development of their sustainability team. And we hope to aid this team and this corporation in their fight to make more sustainable business practices. But before we give our solution to this issue, I'd like to pass it out to my colleague Sam to discuss the abstract ethical issues in regards to sustainability and why we feel that it is imperative that Starbucks take the necessary steps to create more sustainable business practices.
Thank you so much, Peter. So as my colleague has just explained to you, we have defined sustainability, and I'd like to take some time to explore why it is that sustainability is something that we should care about so much. There are many dimensions to the ethical necessity of this practice, but the three which are most relevant and most important for the case of Starbucks are humans, equity, and trust. To begin with humans, the EPA lists worsening air and water quality, increasing the spread of certain diseases, and increasing the frequency and intensity of certain extreme weather events among the consequences of climate change. These are negative effects which will harm all of humanity, and all humans are going to share in the consequences of our actions of being unsustainable. As such, it is appropriate to characterize unsustainability and the climate change that results from it as a threat to our species as a whole. To give you a more concrete example of what we're talking about here, according to the Marine Pollution Bulletin, 10% of the 690 species which have encountered marine debris in the ocean have ingested microplastics, which are, as the name suggests, extremely small pieces of plastic that are often formed from larger pieces of plastic that have broken down, often in the ocean. These microplastics enter into the body of the creatures that eat them, and as we eat these and they come up the food chain and enter into our bodies, they can cause all sorts of negative health consequences, among which are neurotoxicity and immune system disruptions, but that it's certainly not limited to that. Starbucks, through their unsustainability, is contributing to these practices, and it is an ethical necessity for the health of humankind as a whole to try and fix this. The next thing that we should explore is equity. According to the Environmental Protection Agency's report, Climate Change and Social Vulnerability in the United States, a focus on 6 impacts. If sea levels were to rise by 50 centimeters or global temperatures to rise by 2 degrees Celsius, people in low income brackets are expected to experience approximately 11% more deaths than those in higher income brackets, and minority children are projected to be diagnosed with asthma at a rate about 27% higher than those of non-minority children. Starbucks values assert that they support a culture of warmth and belonging where everybody is welcome. And if this is a value that Starbucks supports, then they should be interested in making sure that a world is created where all sorts of different people are able to live healthy, happy, and safe lives. Lastly, let's discuss trust. Consumers are interested in associating with businesses that they can trust, businesses that follow through on the promises they make, and they know are not just trying to look good with whatever sustainability efforts they are pushing. Now, don't get us wrong here. We are not trying to say that Starbucks has been a failure in this regard. Starbucks is doing a lot of very good things. We have some criticisms, of course, which we have laid out through our presentations and will continue to lay out. But still, businesses need to be trustworthy to their consumers. According to a January 2016 survey of 32,200 respondents by the Edelman Trust Barometer, 48% of respondents said that they did not want to purchase products or services from businesses that they did not trust. Starbucks, if they continue to have blind spots and failures in their sustainability efforts, very well could incur these negative business consequences. So, what are the consequences of inaction that we are discussing here? Well, first off, Starbucks produces 14,706 tons of greenhouse gas emissions per year, and these levels are continuing to rise with each year. They also waste 280 million gallons of water each year, which is enough to provide 350 families with drinking water for an entire year. They also are producing 230 million pounds of waste every single year, and this is involved in the pollution of waterways, among other negative consequences. Overall, Starbucks just is not fully living up to their efforts here, and that is the core of our presentation and our message that we are trying to give the Starbucks Sustainability Board. And we believe that Starbucks could very well be left in the past as other businesses begin to move forward if they do not start taking some of these blind spots into consideration that we believe that they have not been considering as much. I'd now like to pass this back over to my colleague Peter to discuss some other issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So while we recognize and outlined why it's so imperative that Starbucks implement certain sustainability practices, we recognize that there are also somewhat ethical dilemmas that come along with the implementation of bio-PBS, as we outlined yesterday, which is a sustainable resource that could be used as a lining for cups created by the Mitsubishi Corporation that could be replaced for polyethylene plastic, which is would reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions created by the creation of polyethylene plastic, as polyethylene is made through natural gas and oil, whereas bio-PBS is made through sugarcane. And bio-PBS would allow the cups that Starbucks produce, the single-use cups that Starbucks produce, would now make them recyclable as well as decomposable. So while we recognize that it is imperative that Starbucks implement this solution to better improve their waste management and CO2 emissions, we also feel it is necessary to recognize certain ethical dilemmas that come with the usage of the solution. As it was outlined to us yesterday, there is a reason why this hasn't been implemented in the past, and we wish to recognize what possible concerns could come from the implementation of bio-PBS. Number one, the corporation that has created bio-PBS, our solution, is the Mitsubishi Corporation, and they are not a corporation that is very has as much waste management as Starbucks does. They create lots of CO2 emissions, as they are chiefly a car manufacturer, and so by investing in a product produced by the Mitsubishi Corporation, you are possibly supporting a business that is not interested in protecting the environment as much as Starbucks is, and supporting that business in their attempts to produce more carbon and more waste products. While we recognize that this is a real concern for the Starbucks Corporation to take into consideration before investing in bio-PBS, we feel that Starbucks is chiefly responsible for their own emissions, and they can only take responsibility for how much waste and CO2 they produce, as opposed to how much they support other corporations that may be producing CO2 in greater levels. We also feel that through investing in sustainable business resources like bio-PBS, Starbucks will make great strides for the world in terms of setting an example as a large corporation. Because Starbucks works so internationally, other corporations may take recognition of Starbucks' sustainable business practices and improve their own single-use products to more sustainable means like bio-PBS. We also recognize that as imperative as the climate is, there are business costs that could be incurred. Starbucks is a corporation. They are there to make a profit in a product, and greener initiatives often raise the price of the products being used and put stresses on manufacturing relationships, as new technology has to be pioneered in the effort to make a more cleaner, sustainable business practice. This could be a real challenge for Starbucks as they try and balance the needs of their corporation in terms of GDP, but also struggle to maintain their values in terms of valuing sustainability. While there is a short-run raise in costs in terms of the cup-to-cup scenario of bio-PBS being used, as green initiatives are often somewhat more expensive than non-green initiatives, we feel that these are counteracted by the fact that the technology used to create bio-PBS is cheaper to run and manufacture than the tools used to create polyethylene plastic, as well as the fact that the manufacturing tools there do not rely on natural gas and oil, which are very expensive and subjected to the geopolitical climate as oil prices raise frequently, according to whatever conflict the world is facing. So by using bio-PBS manufacturing tools, Starbucks would not have this sort of subjectivity in their price, which we feel would counteract the incurred cost of raising the price of their cups through the implementation of greener initiatives. With all that in mind, we thank you very much for listening and for prioritizing green initiatives more than most corporations do. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so that was the end of cohort 1. But we are going to have one group from cohort 2 who's going to present during this time. So that is the State University of New York at Potsdam to discuss GPT. Again, we get to learn more about Chat GPT. So wonderful. Whenever you're ready. Thank you, gentlemen.
All righty. All righty. So thank you for coming today and calling us back here to talk about the ethical issues you face, ChatGPT. As you know, there's a variety of issues we've been facing right now ethically between the bias claims and the environmental claims, as we've heard earlier, as well as claims of plagiarism and claims of jobs being taken by this. But the issue we would like to focus most on today is the issue of plagiarism that ChatGPT faces, because right now it is the issue that is most pressing to ChatGPT. So with that out of the way, I would like to hand it to Brian over here to talk about some of the stakeholders that ChatGPT affects.
Thank you, Teddy. So I'm going to be discussing how teachers are affected by the use of ChatGPT. So teachers can be affected by using ChatGPT. It'll mess with their creativity, which they'll start losing more of their creativity while ChatGPT does everything for them. So professors and teachers in high school, usually they come up with their own lesson plans on how they want to lay out how they want to teach their class that day, and they want to change it so it's not the same repetitive thing over and over again. So teachers will lose their creativity if they keep using ChatGPT more and more, and they'll eventually start to run out of more ideas. The next way it affects teachers is if it'll make them lazy. So ChatGPT, what it's used for is it can write lessons plans, grading rubrics, and outline essays, so they can see exactly, all right, so here's where we need to start in the paper as an essay outline and a grading rubric and lesson plans. Those are the most popular things that teachers would use ChatGPT for. ChatGPT can also steal a teacher's motivation. A teacher, at the end of the day, they want to teach their student. Excuse me. ChatGPT wants to teach teachers want to teach their students without using ChatGPT, because that makes them more creative. That's their motivation to teach students. At the end of the day, that's their job. But depending on how teachers use ChatGPT to teach their students, it can throw like a curveball, I guess, and it'll steal that motivation because they're not coming up with everything on their own. They're not being creative anymore. They're just relying on ChatGPT to help them get through the lesson. Another thing is teachers will get bored of it since it's the same repetitive thing over and over again. Teachers are going to get sick of it. And on top of that, they're not going to have any more ideas because they ran out of their ideas, and their lesson plans will just get repetitive. And looking at it from a student's point of view, they'll get uninterested fairly easily as well. It's also, for a teacher, while grading, it's also hard to tell if a student used ChatGPT or if they actually did their own creative writing. As a teacher, it puts you in a perspective and at a stand where you're grading something you can't really tell, which is the scary part of using ChatGPT. And using like Turnitin as a plagiarism checker, it tells you a percentage of how many words or where this information came from, if it was plagiarized or not. It's hard for the teacher to distinguish that while grading an assignment, or even more of the time an essay. So this can also lead to teachers or professors like losing their passion. It'd be hard for a teacher to keep reading essays over and over again that are written by ChatGPT. And as I was saying before, it's hard to distinguish the text between the two, but some teachers can actually distinguish that. By one teacher actually said a little while ago that, or one professor at Furman University said that when he noticed that his student was using ChatGPT to write a 500-word essay, that it sounded like it was written by a very smart senior in high school. So looking at it from a teacher's perspective, it can be kind of difficult as well, reading the papers and stuff. And while students lose their interest because it's the same repetitive thing over and over again, it makes the teachers lose their passion. So now I'm going to shift my focus towards the students aspect of how the students are affected in this matter. So first and foremost, students and even teachers, they need to use ChatGPT responsibly. Teachers shouldn't use ChatGPT for every single thing that they do when they need help with, and more importantly, the students, because the students still need to learn the material as well. So the students need to use it responsibly, and they can't get hooked on using ChatGPT and looking for the easy way out of things. Because as a student, if you're just getting away with using ChatGPT on your essays and assignments, then you're just going to keep on doing it. And if you keep passing, you're just going to keep on using it throughout your high school and your college career. But the benefit behind that, using ChatGPT as a student, is if you miss class one day or missed a period of class and you covered an important subject, ChatGPT can act as a professor or a teacher and teach you that material that you missed out on that day. So ChatGPT isn't all con. There's benefits to it and cons to it, just not. It depends on how the student or how the professor uses it. And the main part is using it responsibly. And this is also scary for the future generation too, because if students keep on using ChatGPT and keep on getting away with it throughout their whole high school and college academic career, then they're probably not going to retain any of that information, as well as students who are creative and writing in their own craft in their own way throughout their academic career. So now I'm going to be passing it on to Teddy to talk about how OpenAI is affected by this issue.
Alrighty, so OpenAI is essentially the company that started this whole issue with their introduction of ChatGPT, and the way people have adjusted to ChatGPT have really determined why this whole issue has played out. As students have seen and taken advantage of the great capabilities it has to such an extent where they're now directly copying from ChatGPT, teachers are now using ChatGPT to do a lot of their work as well. However, ChatGPT was never created for this purpose. The purpose of ChatGPT was to be used to present information to people in a way that's easy to digest. And it's so human-like in the way it presents its text to people that people use it in many different creative ways. However, we do not want people to be using it for cheating. And OpenAI has, while they have discouraged the use of their AI for use in cheating, they haven't done enough to prevent it. And the solution that we pitched to OpenAI was to give all generated text and put it into a database that other plagiarism checkers would have access to, so that we could really identify how much is copy and pasted directly from ChatGPT into all of these papers and these assignments and these lesson plans that people are using, so that it's easy to identify the difference between AI work and work that is created by human beings. And ultimately, the solution would make it a lot easier to tell if people are using ChatGPT in a way that's constructive versus a way that's very unethical, with copying and using it to dodge work. So overall, ChatGPT has many benefits that it can offer people. However, people seeing such a useful tool use it unethically, and in order to prevent the unethical use of ChatGPT, we need to better crack down on the plagiarism issue using a solution like Turnitin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Greg, do people want to turn back on their videos? Awesome. Greg, did you want to give some feedback or?
Sure. Yeah, so this is just, this is my first time doing the 10-minute judging. So this is just feedback on sort of delivery and cadence and things like that. Is that right?
Well, you know,
I'm just
I
gonna-
don't recall in the past that we did give feedback for 10 minutes.
Here,
So
Fernando,
it's whatever
I'm just gonna call you back.
want it
Let
to
me
be.
just put
Oh.
this in your, I'm gonna put the,
Okay, good. Roxanne, unmuted. So, I don't recall, I don't know, like
Okay.
a year ago was a long time ago, but I don't recall doing anything after the 10
Okay,
minutes as a
but
judge,
it
but
doesn't hurt,
I
though.
think it's great to give feedback, especially
Right.
for any of those students who might be coming back and doing this again next
Right.
year.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so let me just go, I'll just go in no particular order, but so for the Starbucks, which was Georgia 2, right? I thought that I mean, I thought you did a good job of organizing your presentation. I thought you spent a little too much time on the situation and not enough time on the solution. And I got a little confused about Mitsubishi. Like, is Mitsubishi making the biodegradable film? I wasn't clear on that. And anyway, that was my only sort of feedback on that. Peter, I thought you needed to slow down a little bit, and I struggle with that myself when I'm speaking to an audience, so don't take that personally or anything. All right, so then Cal State, Northridge. I thought it was a really good presentation. The only thing I would say is it didn't seem to focus on the ethical aspect of the solution. So that's just my feedback on that. And then for Penn State, God, I gotta read my handwriting. I liked how you organized it into fairness and transparency. I thought that was good. And I thought you did a nice job organizing your presentation. And then on the SUNY Potsdam ChatGPT, I thought you did a really great job on the delivery, good sort of cadence, and again, I thought you could have focused more on the solution. I really like your solution, by the way, of just because now that data and memory is so, I mean, not data, but the memory is so cheap that they could literally just keep track of every single thing that robot spits out. And that's a great idea, I thought. So, but again, just too much on the situation, and maybe you could have focused more on the solution during the 10 minutes. So that's all I got. I thought everybody did a great job, and thanks for doing this. I mean, I know you're busy as students, and we appreciate you participating.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So thank you all for doing this. It's the 10-minute in my mind is always a lot harder than the 30 minutes or even the 90 seconds. Just because you have enough time where you have to actually have an organized kind of argument and deliver more than just a very short burst of information, but you don't get the benefits of having a PowerPoint. So this is definitely the hardest. So kudos to all of you from your teams who volunteered to participate in this one. I think you guys, all of you did a really, really great job. I think you're so I'll just kind of start with Northridge chat GPT number 1. I thought that that you did a really good job. And I thought that you had quite a few good solutions. And I agree with Greg, you could have spent a little bit more time on talking about what were the ethical issues to begin with. I think you've talked about data privacy and environment, but less about kind of how that led to, how that can lead to ethical issues. But overall, great. I thought it was nice that you had a couple different solutions. So you did a good job. The Ticketmaster pricing, I really, really liked. And for anyone who is going to do this again next year, I think that this is one thing that the Penn State did, which was really, really fabulous, is that you put the agenda up front, right? You said, these are the things that we're going to talk about, right? We're going to talk about this problem. We're going to talk about our solution, which is X, and the ethical issues, which are Y. That is, in my mind, that is almost like having a PowerPoint, right? It allows me, the listener, to kind of understand how this is going to go. So I thought that was brilliant. I agree with Greg, you went a little too fast. It seemed really, really fast. And we're going to get all this information in. And again, for teams that are going to be doing this next year, you don't need to take your 30-minute and condense it into 10 minutes, right? Really, you can, if you want, you can actually just look at one problem with one solution and talk about the ethical issues. You don't have to give every single one of your solutions or all of the issues out there, okay? But I think you guys did a really good job. You talked about the lack of transparency. I like that you brought it back to the company by saying, let's do a new mission statement. I think that's great. I like when teams pick up on those types of things. But, I think having all of, again, kind of, I think part of the reason you had to be a little bit rushed is because you wanted to make sure we heard all your solutions. But, you had some really great solutions, but maybe next year just focus on one or two of them and really, kind of address those. Starbucks, I think, great job. You both were good presenters. You knew all your stuff, which was excellent. I think it would have been a little bit more powerful if you could have given us the solution up front, because it took us, you went through a lot of facts, and I understand climate change and the environment and the impact. And it's, that's a big deal, impact on minorities, impact on developing countries, all of those things. But I was just waiting to hear, like, okay, so what are we going to do, right? what's our solution? So solution up front is a really great idea for next year. Also, and I think this pertains to perhaps one or two of the other teams, when you are delivering either your 30-minute or your 10-minute, make sure that you stay in character. So when you're talking about Starbucks, instead of saying they do this or it's important to them, make sure you're saying you do this and it's important to you, right? Because we are supposed to be the sustainability board. So just a pointer there. I think that, yeah, you did a good job, very good job linking it back to the Starbucks mission, vision, values. Again, I think that's really key when the teams do that, because I believe it's very important that a company live up to its mission, mission, vision, and values. So I love that you brought it back to that. And then for Chat GPT number 2, I'm learning a lot about Chat GPT, by the way, just from doing this. I've never even been on there. I don't think my company even allows me to open up the link. I really liked, and I don't know if this was kind of ad hoc or if you built this into your session, but I really loved how you reflected on the fact that we had already heard some stuff about Chat GPT, but then you said, okay, but we're going to focus on this particular issue. I thought that was brilliant. And whether you planned it in advance or thought of it on your feet, it was awesome. Very, very smart. Similar to Starbucks, bring us the solution up front. Really helpful if we know what our solution is while we're hearing even about the issues. And I also liked your solution. I know Chat GPT number 1 and Chat GPT number 2, you guys were both thinking about this plagiarism issue. One team said, let's do watermarks. The other team said searchable database. I don't know the pros and cons of both, but I think it's really amazing that the two teams independently, came up with different solutions. That's just brilliant. So great job, all of you. 10 minutes is a hard one, competition, but you all did so well. Does anybody have any questions or anything for Greg or myself?
I would just like to say on behalf of Penn State, thank you again for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to hearing on Monday.